Hello, lovely people. It's a delight to come your way once again. It's been a minute. The last time I was on here, we were talking about loneliness and the cure to loneliness. We spoke about the fact that building quality relationships in our lives will help us overcome loneliness. We spoke about the fact that the most important relationship was with God. And then, secondly, we spoke about the relationship we have with ourselves, falling in love with who we are and having a positive relationship with ourselves. Today, I want to talk about the relationship with how we have with other people, family and friends, co-workers, all the people we have in our social circles. Um, God is interested in us living in communities. God is interested in us having relationships with other people. That is why when he made Adam, Adam had fellowship with him, all right. I believe Adam knew who he was at the time he was made. And whatever level of knowledge he had was working. What God said was not good was the fact that it wasn't good for man to be alone. And so he was going to make him a suitable helper. And most of us limit that to marriage, but I believe that it's not everybody who is going to get married in life. People have come and gone who were never married. They are not the first, they won't be the last. Some are by choice, some are by circumstance. I just want to make the point that whoever we are, God has made us for community. And so our relationships with others is very important, and it is important to him as well. That is why he put us in families in the first place. Now, Bible says that iron sharpeneth iron, so does a brother sharpen the countenance of his brother. And so to make it, to move forward, to advance, it takes being with like-minded people. The psalmist said in Psalm 1 that blessed is the man that does not walk in the way of sinners, that does not sit in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of the Lord. So it means that God is interested in who we are fellowshipping with, in whose seat we are sitting, who we are conferring with. A lion would not be moving with highness. An eagle will not be moving with fowls. And so it is important that we are intentional about the people we choose to do life with, our inner circle. We are intentional about where am I going? How are these people adding value to me? And then choose it according to God's directive. It says, don't be deceived. Evil company corrupts good morals. It's just a matter of time that you become like the people you spend the most time with. And for me, one thing I've learned over time is if you're spending time reading books, it means that you are spending time interrogating the minds of the authors. So that is another way of building, like extending yourself and having a relationship of a sort. They are not there with you, but you are feeding on their thoughts, on their minds. And so you will become like them over time. That is the angle that is dealing with intentional relationships, intentional friendships, the people who feed into your purpose and help you grow. I believe that not all relationships have the same priority. When you find people who are pouring into you, who are adding value to you, know their place and treat them accordingly. As they are treating you special, make sure that you don't make them an option. When people prioritize you, you prioritize them. Another portion that I want to talk about that applies to everyday life is how we relate to every other person. These are not purpose partners. These are not specifically selected friends or inner circle. This is family you probably don't get along with, co-workers, people in the neighborhood. What does God expect from us? Bible says that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. And so the interest God has for his creation is he doesn't want anybody to get lost. He wants every single person to come to the saving knowledge of Christ. And so everybody out there, God is interested in them. They are worth dying for. Every single person that you have written of that you think is good for nothing, they are worth dying for, and that is how God sees them. In Isaiah, he said, God said, I will give men for thee. And he's not, I'll give men for thee. That was God's promise to his children. And then he went ahead to give his life for mankind. And so he's interested in every single individual that you see that you might have written off. It is important that we look at men as God sees them. They are worth dying for, and he died for them. So every single person God died for. When Jesus was healing the blind man, when he put sand and saliva on his eyes, he washed it, he came back and said, "What do you see?" He said, "I see men as trees." That wasn't a good perception, but most of the time, sometimes, some of us see men as trees. And so that is how we might end up treating them. But when Jesus wanted him to see, where he washed his eyes again and he saw, now he saw men as men. And these men are people who are worth dying for. Now let me come to it. Whilst we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. And we have been called to a life of love. When Jesus was asked, what is the greatest commandment? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And love your neighbor as yourself. God is expecting us to extend the graces, the love, everything that we give to ourselves to our neighbors. That is the call. And so in our relationship with others, we know we are flawed. We cut ourselves some slack. We are expected to do the same for people. We are expected to love. God has shed his love abroad in our hearts, and that is what he's expecting us to extend to everybody around us. Someone said that the most important thing to succeed in life, the most important thing for success in life is knowing how to relate to people. Knowing how to relate to people. If you're a business person, your shareholders are people, your employees are people, your customers are people. So if you don't know how to relate to people, that spells your doom right there. And when I talk about God calling us to a life of love, I just want us to look at love again. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. This is what God is expecting us to give to other people. I was talking about the fact that I had to deal with some things before coming to talk about this topic. It was a very usual practice of mine to just block you. Like, no, you can't come and stress me. You know, all that kind of things. But God has dealt with me. Blocking is not the way out. Of course, in very extreme circumstances where you know that your right hand is taking you to hell, yes, you have to block. But God has called us. He says, as much as it depends on you, live at peace with all men. He said that as much as it depends on you, live at peace with all men. And so he says, when your brother wrongs you, call him and talk to him. If it doesn't work out, call another brother and sit together and talk. If it doesn't work out, call him before the council and speak to him. If it doesn't work out, he says, treat him like an unbeliever. And what are we expected to do with unbelievers? Even when we were yet sinners, Christ loved us and died for us. And so it's still a call to love. And so the people in our lives who might be problematic, who might be giving us stress, they are there for a purpose. They are there to teach us patience. They are there to help us become more emotionally intelligent. If we decide to work on ourselves instead of trying to work on them, we'll end up getting better. If we step out with the foot of love, if we extend the hand of love, it's going to make us better, and we represent our Father in heaven better. And when we keep these relationships well, our lives will be more meaningful, and loneliness will not be a thing we have to deal with, because we have spread a lot of love. They might not come to you from the same people, but it's a principle of sowing and reaping. It is a principle, and so it happens. As you keep sowing love, it will come back to you. And when love is patient and love is kind, it doesn't mean that you leave people as they are. God saw that we were worth saving. God saw that that hopeless drunkard there can make something of his life. When he receives Christ, he begins to have a better self-image, begins to see himself that Christ sees him, that he has a purpose for his life and he has something to contribute to this life. In the same way, when we love people, we don't give up on them. We see how we can build them and make them better people. Men, I'm not sitting here saying it as if it is easy. I just told you that I used to just block people anyhow. But as it was taking me weeks and I couldn't come sit about this and talk about this because I knew there were peace I had to make with people. There was peace I had to make with people, and there were unblockings I had to do. And so it is important that we see God, we see people as God sees them, and extend the hand of love, extend the heart of love, cut them some slack, because you know that you are flawed. They are flawed too. And when we extend love, these relationships will grow because we see the good in them and will help people to become better people. And as we pour into each other, life becomes more meaningful. And so this is looking like a sermon on love, but really that is it. We've been called to a life of love. Love your neighbor as yourself. See them as God sees them. Give them the graces you give to yourself and you expect others to give to you. Forgive quickly. Don't give the enemy a foothold by keeping bitterness in your heart. You're just working against yourself when we do that. Let's maintain these relationships. Let's be intentional. Let's be at peace with all men as we've been called. And when these relationships are fine, and we are good with ourselves and our relationships with God are on point, life is more worthwhile. It's more blessed to give than to receive. And you cannot give without love. Let's give love. Let's give of ourselves. And I believe that life will be much more fulfilling. God bless you. I thank you for your time. And it's a privilege I don't take for granted. Catch you soon. I have a lot up my sleeves. You're going to see them very soon. God bless you. I love you. Bye.